Welcome to FinPod by FinPros Network. I'm Jani, your host. This is episode 3 of FinPod. Today we're joined by Mr. Arun Sampathkumar. He has been through a remarkable journey, from internal audit at Ashok Leyland to raising capital across India and overseas markets to helping build significant enterprise value to being part of projects connected to Chandrayaan-3. Mr. Arun Sampathkumar, welcome to FinPod. So let's start with the questions, shall we? Sir, you began your career in internal audit, a space known for discipline and detail. So today you operate at a completely different scale. And so how did those early audit years shape the way you take big financial decisions today?
See, for a finance profession to start the career, internal audit is the best department. It gives access to all the departments across the organization. And the organization is very big. So you will get to know each and every function, how it operates. So the process, policies wise, you will get stronger. See, for any young professional, fundamentally it needs to be strong. Okay. So internal audit provides that opportunity, that window of opportunity. So the transition will be very smooth from internal audit to accounting, finance, treasury, and elevation to from operational CFO to a strategic CFO. Everything will be automatic. So that's how it happens.
So is there one lesson from that phase that you still apply?
See, when I started my career, those days, one computer per person itself was a luxury. Okay. So we have to operate in an environment where there will be a centralized EDP department. People don't have access to computers. Everything was manual. At the time itself, as part of the internal audit team, we know the process, all are manually drafted process. So we get to study everything. In a computer, everything will be in electronic form. So we don't have much opportunity to scroll down. So when you look at the hard copies, so we get to know the concepts very well. So that's the journey, and I loved it making.
So moving on to the next question. You are both a CA and an ICWA. How was having both perspectives influence the way you balance cost, control, and growth?
See, actually, most of the subjects are common. Okay. And ICWA really talks about the cost. And for any organization, when we talk about finance professionals, they don't distinguish you between a CA, ICWA and all. Okay. It all depends on how you grow well in the organization, how you perform. Okay. And cost control is one preliminary basic aspect for any finance professional, whether it's a CA or ICWA or MBA also. Cost control is 100% required. So when we talk about cost control, we should not talk about cost cutting. It's more of a cost optimization. So we should have a proper cost optimization plan, and that costing should work well.
That was a very good explanation. So now, moving on to the next question. You've raised significant funding across different countries. So what helped you stay composed while structuring large capital decisions?
When we raise funds in each and every country, first we need to understand the country's environment, global economic environment in that country. Okay. And we should have a solid project. See, without a solid project, we can't approach for any fundraising in any country. Okay. And then we need to strategize. First, plan overall the lenders, what will be the debt equity ratio, and how we will mobilize the equity and how we will mobilize the debt. First, we need to understand the country, then the project, then approach the lenders and understand the lenders' requirement. So once we understand the lenders' requirement, it will be easier for us to put the project proposal properly to them. When you put the proposal, lenders should understand. See, lenders will more, or we read about the word DSR, debt service coverage ratio. So our calculation should be in such a way that it meets the DSR requirement. Okay. So that is common across the globe. See, it's not a country specific, whether in Thailand it will be like this or South Africa. It's common across the globe. So debt and equity, it's globally common.
I like the way how clearly you explained that. Moving on to the next question. When negotiating with overseas lenders or investors, what changes more, the numbers or the mindset?
It's more of the mindset. So first, we need to get into the mindset. First, our mindset should be proper. Okay, we should believe in ourselves. If we approach this lender, we'll get funding. First, we need to gauge the situation. Okay. Then we need to get into the mindset of the lender. Okay. And then only the numbers. See, numbers comes the last. So it's the mindset. Okay. So numbers, we can always work on the numbers. But ensure that the lenders understand those numbers. It should fit into their table. Then only we'll be eligible for that funding. So mindset is more important than the numbers. See, numbers can be a bulk data also we can give. If you don't have a meaningful interpretation of the numbers, then nobody will understand.
I think that's very true about the mindset part. So, you've handled foreign currency exposure in structured transactions. So, what is the biggest mistake companies make while managing forex risk?
Normally, hedging. Hedging is the biggest risk. See, when a company has got natural hedging, this is my view. Okay. When a company has got natural hedging, they should not hedge at all. Okay. If they have an export business, automatically their collections are hedged. Okay. So we should not take any hedging exposure. Otherwise, if you don't have a natural hedging is compulsory. Otherwise, it will derail all your calculations. So, for example, you take a project loan for a project which doesn't have any forex exposure. Okay. And if you don't hedge, and if the currency appreciates compared to rupee, then all our calculations will go for a toss. The IRR, what we commit to the investors, and the debt commitment, what we owe to the lenders, everything, all the calculation will go awry. So hedging is very, very important to manage the forex risk. And it varies from company to company. I will not say 100% hedging we need to do, or we should not hedge at all. It all depends on the company where we work. If there is natural hedging, I will advise not to go for any hedging.
Okay, that was very well articulated, sir. So, moving on to the next question. You've improved treasury performance meaningfully over time. So, how can a finance professional sharpen treasury thinking beyond routine banking?
To manage treasury, first a person should understand the business. The cash to cash cycle of the business counts for treasury. Okay. Without business understanding, no finance or accounts person can really work. Okay. If you understand the cash to cash cycle, how much time from the date you invest on the raw materials and when it gets converted, see, treasury is simple. Okay. So any business, we need to purchase the raw material and manufacture, produce it and sell it to the customers. And it's a data realization time. So this cash to cash cycle we should identify. Okay. And depending on the nature of business, whether it involves foreign currency or domestic currency, we need to identify the right treasury product. So the moment you understand the business, you need to expertise the treasury products as well. Okay. So that is a basic nature of any finance professional. Treasury management is nothing but working capital management.
That's very true. Brings me to my next question. When does a finance leader move from being a numbers manager to becoming a business builder?
Every finance function has got a FP&A function, that is financial planning and analysis. So financial planning and analysis in each industry, that's called in a different form. Okay. In IT industry, it's called business finance. In a manufacturing industry, it's called FP&A function, financial planning and analysis. Okay. Financial planning and analysis starts with a number, okay, which we draw from the system and arrive at the number, which is only a past data. And we need to make a meaningful interpretation from the past data. And we present it to the business. So that's how a finance person gets translated to a business leader, okay. When he understands the numbers and makes meaningful interpretation, he can always recommend some ideas also, give some ideas to the business people for them to change the way they do the business, not the technical part. It's only the finance part. How financial shrewdness should be applied in their normal routine business. So that's how you also learn the business. So the numbers should be correct. At the same time, we need to make a meaningful interpretation of the numbers.
I think that was a very interesting link between the numbers and their interpretation. So shifting gears to the next question. You've seen organizations grow from a few hundred to several thousand employees. When a company scales rapidly, what breaks first? Systems, people, or communication?
See, for a finance professional, it's more of a system. People and communication is more of a HR role. Okay, they'll bring the right people and they will do the right communication. But the systems, if the systems are proper, it can accommodate exponential growth in the employees in any organization. So if the organization starts with a humble number of 10 and it ramps up to 1,000, if the systems are strong, it can accommodate the exponential growth. But bringing the right people, it's not finance person's role. Okay, that's more of a HR role. So I will go by the systems, systems, processes, and the policies.
So, building on that thought, you've worked in listed environments and closely held groups. What governance practice from listed companies should every growing business adapt?
Listed companies, we are obligated to report entire governance to the shareholders on a quarterly basis. So, and here for a private limited company, closely held company, once in a year only we will have a shareholders meeting. So within one meeting, everything has to be communicated. But the policies, procedures, everything what we follow should be at par with the listed company, so that it will be easier for us to satisfy the shareholders. At the end of the day, whether it's a 2 shareholder or 2,000 shareholders, the requirements are same. We can't say that this shareholder will not ask this question or he will not raise this question. Okay, the governance is same, and it all depends. Again, I'm going back to the mindset in the earlier question. It all depends on your mindset, how you treat your shareholder. If you treat your shareholder at par with the listed company, like for private limited companies also, then nothing will change. So we should not treat listed company and private limited company separately as far as finance comes. Only the regulatory requirement reporting may be different. But as a finance profession, we should not treat them separately.
So this leads me to my next question. You were involved in transforming a plant into an export-oriented unit. So what financial mindset shift is required for such transformation?
See, it's more of a business mindset rather than a financial mindset, because it all depends on the business. The nature of business warrants. The manufacturing process itself is dependent on the seasonal nature of the raw material. Okay, so we need to explore some possibilities where the raw materials will have a longer shelf life. Okay, and longer shelf life products are not available in India. It's available overseas, and it takes 3 months for us to receive those materials. And whatever we procure here, that perishes in 24 hours. Okay, so for longer shelf life, we need to import. When we import the raw materials and produce it, we need to pay customs duty if it's not an EOU. Okay, and when we pay customs duty, our cost goes up. We will not be competitive in the market. Okay, so that's why we have to think out of the box. As a finance person, we need to advise the management to explore ways. See, when we evaluated moving that unit from a domestic tariff area to a EOU, we gave them 4 or 5 options. Okay, whether to go through a SEC or a EOU or advanced licensing and bonded warehouse and those things. See, EOU is the only area where existing facility itself you can convert into EOU. Whereas SEC means it requires a lot of investment. So we evaluated a lot of parameters and then we shortlisted the EOU part. Okay, so that created a business environment. So where we can keep producing throughout the year, so our sales can increase. So it's a blend of finance and the commercial decision.
I see. So that's a very insightful perspective, sir. So implementing shared services often faces internal resistance. What was the toughest resistance you faced and how did you handle it?
See, toughest resistance is at the start. So the cost per resource goes up. Because what happens is there will be a group of companies and every company staff will be moved to a shared service. Okay, and the allocation happens based on the number of transactions. So the company which was accommodating the lesser cost, all of a sudden their cost will go up in the first year. Over a period of time, when every company grows in size, the cost per resource will come down. Okay, the toughest is, even though the service, there will not be any interruption in the service, people will be doing the same service We can reduce the number of staff, but immediately we can't reduce the number of staff. So when we move from a company to a common shared services, the staff strength will not reduce. Okay. But when the company expands, the staff strength will not increase. It will not correspond to the revenue because this staff strength can accommodate more revenue. When they are placed in a small company, that company will absorb their cost. When they move to a shared service, over a period of time, the cost will come down. So the challenge we face, normally people face only in the initial years. Initial years, the cost per resource will be high. But maybe 3-4 years down the line, they will experience the cost also. And the finance person's cost will be lesser than the other department's cost.
I see. So that's a very smart way of handling it. Which leads me to my next question. When expanding capacity through structured funding, what gives you the confidence that the numbers will hold long term?
See, structured funding and numbers holding long term. Everything depends on how we structure the funding. Okay. See, for any funding, business is the main criteria. Okay. The business has to repay. We have to rotate the funds. We have to do the business properly, rotate the funds and repay. Whatever structuring we do, we will only be saving 1 or 2 percentage in the interest cost. And also there will be a huge saving on the principal itself. I have done a complex structured funding where a rupee-euro swap, which has resulted in $500,000 of savings. Okay. For a 2.5 million funding, 2.5 million euro funding, we repaid only 2 million in Indian rupees. Okay. So €500,000, there is a savings is there. But at the same time, it has got nothing to do with the business. Business has to perform. Whether to repay 2 million or 2.5 million, business has to perform. But the savings is always there in a structured funding.
I see. That's very true. So now shifting gears to the next question. You are deeply involved in your solar power business. Beyond returns, what practical realities about solar energy do finance professionals often overlook?
Practical reality is state to state, the regulatory environment varies. Okay. In any solar project, from the lender's viewpoint, they look at only 2 risks. Apart from regulatory risk and other things, they look at 2 risks. One is construction risk and next is collection risk. Okay. Construction risk means we need to give it to a reputed EPC contractor so that they will complete the project on time. Otherwise, the lender's investment, see, lender lends the money. It's a one time and construction also one time. And 25 years, it's going to give the returns. Okay. So if the construction gets stuck, if we don't complete the project, there is no way a company can repay their lenders. Okay. So lenders will look into the construction risk first. Next is the collection risk. So collection risk comes based on the off-taker, the consumer who consumes the power. Okay. His paying ability, because he is the only customer. When we supply power to him, he has to pay on time. With that payment only, we will be repaying the debt. So these are all the major risks which comes into the business when it comes for solar. Construction risk and collection risk. And regulatory and initial phase, when we tie up on the land and licensing, permits, approval, to bring it to the development stage, that is the real risk of a finance profession. Because when we talk about construction risk, everything comes only when the construction starts. Before that, the land should be proper, right? Land and the complaints, the related documents. Documentation should be there, land should be suitable for the project, and then it should be near the grid or connected to the grid. Okay. So these are all the major hurdles we come across a solar project. But the gestation period for a project is 6 months. But tying up of land will take 2 years. So it may take 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. It all depends on how many landowners we are going to approach them. Okay. So the pre-production work, pre-planning is required.
I see. So again, building on that thought, when investing in renewable energy, what matters most? Stability, technology, evolution, or long-term conviction?
See, technology is continuously, it's going to improve. Okay, and this is a one-time investment. At the time of investment, whatever technology is there, we are going to use it. And all our business calculation is based on that only. Okay. After that, even if the technology changes, we can't do anything out of it. Because we can't keep on reinvesting the same amount. Okay. And the returns, everything will be fixed at the time of construction itself. So because we will be committing some post-tax IRR, what the return the project is going to give to the investors. And that is based on the current technology, current cost. And the cost is going, there will be inflation or deflation, whatever may happen in the future. But the current cost and current returns, that's what it counts. And the returns is assured for the next 25 years.
Nice here. Now, shifting gears slightly to the next question. Your group contributed to projects connected to Chandrayaan 3. So, when reviewing financial approvals for something linked to a national mission, did it feel different?
Any project, whatever we do, first the project should be commercially viable. Okay. But when we do some public projects, it becomes, we take it very personal because there is a pride always. We are contributing to the national development itself. Okay. Even though our role is very small in that, but at the same time, we used to maintain the best of the quality. And as a finance professional, we will ensure that the project doesn't stop, or we support the project with the proper funding and get the collections. And we'll be happy to be part of those types of projects because these projects come with the high stakes and will be inaugurated by the highest person in India. Okay, it's a number one person in India. We can't miss those timelines. For that, finance is main priority because what happens is every bill will get cleared only after we complete the task. For that, we need to invest upfront. We need to ensure that materials are supplied on time. And that too, we executed this project during the pandemic times. Okay, the time and all our vehicles were stopped in the middle on the roads and all. So the materials has to function after some time. The lockdown was there. In spite of all those things, we were able to complete the project on time.
That's a very huge responsibility, sir. This leads me to my next question. You've described yourself as someone who believes in smart work. So what does smart work mean in your daily decision making?
It's more of a delegation of your work. Okay, that's what is called smart work. See, when you do a multitasking, you have to delegate your work to the right person. You have to identify the members within the team who will do which work properly. And by delegating, you can get more work extracted. So at any point of time, you can do multiple things. So at the same time, I also work hard. It doesn't mean that I will work. Okay, I delegate and ensure that those people understand and execute to the perfection.
That's true. Which brings me to my next question. In meetings with many discussions, how do you decide what truly deserves attention?
By focusing on the agenda, okay, and our response should be crisp and straight. We should get the buy-in of the person who receives that response. Then that only deserves the attention of others. If you talk something which doesn't correlate with the meeting agenda itself, then nobody attends to it. So they don't pay attention. We should be focused.
That's true. So, when you hire or mentor someone, what tells you they have long-term leadership potential?
So, when we see the commitment from them and dedication, sincerity. See, first and foremost, I believe in timeliness. So, people should first come to the office on time. Okay, and maintain the timelines. I hate the word procrastination. When I give them some task, they have to complete that within the timeline. They have to agree on a timeline and then they have to complete within the timeline. And if they show that commitment, I can easily see that this person will grow. See, I have seen many people who worked under me. They have grown up in the organization. They have become vice presidents and CFOs in other organizations. So in the young age itself, I used to identify them. And it's more of a commitment towards the work. Knowledge, everything is taken because by studies and by practical experience, they always gain that. But the commitment towards the work is a differentiating factor. If they don't get themselves committed, they cannot grow in any organization. When they show that commitment, I can always see that they will always grow, whether they work in this organization or some other organization. they can grow in any organization.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it. If a finance professional in their 30s wants to grow into a multi-hat leader like you, what should they start doing differently?
First, they should understand the fundamentals of their work. So the qualification will only fetch them the job. And when they enter into a job, first job, they should first do away with whatever they have learned. Okay, they can implement it, but again they have to go back to the fundamentals. Whatever they have learned, they have to apply. So normally what happens is, finance professional, once he joins an organization, they think that a routine, mundane job, it's not fit for them. But actually they have to master that in the beginning of the career. They should not master in the middle of the career or not, then they will lose out. So at the beginning of the career, they should get into the fundamentals, understand the concepts, and start implementing it. So once they are strong with the fundamentals, they can expand in any organization, they can grow faster. This is what I look from the young professionals.
That's a very valuable insight from you, sir. This brings me to my next question. In your experience, what slows down finance careers more, skill gaps or mindset gaps?
It's the mindset gap, because skill gaps can always be filled, because they always have the basic skills. Any professional has got the basic skill and the gap can be always filled. But the mindset, if they don't have the proper mindset, so that only matters.
So was there ever a financial decision that kept you awake at night, not because it was complex, but because the responsibility felt heavy?
It's not dependent on financial decision or any decision. Okay. I used to be jittery at the early part of my career. Okay. When anything which suddenly comes up, okay, it used to be jittery. Okay. But the moment we get experience, we get a lot of exposure. Any issues, normally when I come out of the office or come out of that meeting, immediately I don't take it in my head. So we don't take the pressure. If you take the pressure into your head, then all your routine gets disturbed. The personal life itself will get disturbed. So a finance professional should be in a position to partition properly. It's a work-life balance. They have to balance their work and life properly. The moment you are outside the office, you should forget about the work. Because during the work, there will be a lot of decision making which is involved, and there will be a lot of issues where you would not have resolved. You can't resolve every issue and go to sleep daily. Okay. There will be a lot of open issues. You will be grappling with the issues, but you should know how to partition them. The moment you get out of it, then you should not carry into your head at all.
After everything you've built, capital structures, businesses, teams, do you see yourself more as a finance manager or an enterprise builder?
I see myself as more of an enterprise builder. So finance manager sticks himself to finance and accounts. Okay. It stops with the operations. So enterprise builder gets into a strategic part of it. Planning for a new initiative, how to expand the business, how to diversify the business. So enterprise builder is something, it's a transition from CFO to a CEO, which I'm already doing it. Okay, we need to have a proper transition plan. So every finance professional, it should not stop with CFO. It should stop with an entrepreneur or a CEO.
Now, again, moving on to the next question. Years from now, what would you want people to say you built beyond numbers?
So the moment they hear my name, I should see a spark in their eyes. So that's what is my least expectation from them. It means what I should have added some value in their life, in their career, basically. So I should have groomed them so that whenever they talk about me, they should think about finance and there should be a spark. Yeah, he only groomed me. So that gives us a satisfaction.
I see. That's a very beautiful way of looking at your legacy. So if someone watches this episode looking for growth and inspiration, what is the one principle they should remember?
Hard work and smart work. Okay. They should work hard. At the same time, they should work smart.
That's true. So now, moving on to the FinPros round. How do you think peer communities like FinPros Network help finance professionals in their life?
See, regulatory updates. We get regulatory updates very fast in the communities like this. See, what happens is before it's published or before it's announced itself, the FinPros one person or other, they have access to the regulatory update. That is one thing. Next is knowledge sharing. Everybody has different knowledge in their domain. Okay, and anyone has a problem, they can throw it in that forum and they get a solution immediately. So knowledge sharing is there. So these two, regulatory update is very fast, and knowledge sharing, global environment, any changes done which happens globally, this forum, through these communities, we get to know immediately.
Now moving on to the FinPod Power Wisdom round. If someone watches this episode looking for growth and inspiration, what is the one principle they should remember?
See, one thing I believe in my career is consistency. Earlier, I had already answered this type of question, where it's hard work and smart work that gives growth and inspiration.
That's very
So I'll maintain the same thing.
true. So now moving on to the exciting FinPod Fire round. So the way this round works is that I will say a word and you will answer with what it means to you in a word.
Okay.
So let's start with it. Capital.
Principle,
Risk.
peril,
Discipline.
self-control,
Growth.
development,
Governance.
stewardship,
Solar.
sunlight,
Leadership.
guidance,
Smart work.
efficiency,
Legacy.
heritage.
Thank you so much for this. So I had the privilege of showing you around Mark's studio. So what do you feel about this place?
This is centrally located, easily accessible, and the ambience is good. The staff, the photographers, cameraman, all are very polite, accessible, and they approachable. I feel like at home. I don't feel like I'm in a studio.
That was really great. Thank you so much for your valuable time. So we're really grateful for your valuable insights. And here's a token of appreciation for the same.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll also take this opportunity to thank the FinPros community for giving me a platform to showcase my insights into the firm. Okay. I hope this session would have made some impact on the organization. Thank you so much.
To gain more such valuable insights, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.